The blue deployment binder hits the conference table so hard that one brass ring snaps open. 30 pages fan between coffee cups, laptop cords, and the bowl of peppermints Trent keeps putting in meeting rooms because he thinks they make bad news feel hospitable. He uncaps the marker and wipes my name from the release board. Mara Vance. Release authority disappears beneath a gray smear. "Anyone can do your job," he says. "Evan will run Friday's release." 14 people find somewhere else to look. I stare at Trent's wedding ring wrapped around the marker. My sister picked that ring. I stood beside her when she gave it to him. Then I look down at the 3 red grease pencil marks, still waiting in the binder, and wonder whether Trent has removed me because he doesn't understand them, or because he finally does. Evan Mercer sits across from me with his shoulders pulled up around his ears. He's 32, smart, quick, and currently wearing the expression of a man who has been handed a live goose in a restaurant. "Okay," he says carefully. "Just so I understand, am I taking release coordination, or—" "You're taking Mara's function," Trent says. That answers nothing, but Trent gives him a smile that says the subject has been made simple and will stay that way. Behind Trent, the television displays the Halcyon launch schedule. The Friday column is packed tight. Database backup at 6, payment routing freeze at 6:15, final reconciliation, production promotion, smoke tests, client authorization, bank file validation. At the bottom, someone has added a tiny rocket ship beside 10 p.m. I know it was Trent. He likes little pictures at the end of complicated plans. "What triggered the change?" I ask. My voice comes out level. That annoys him more than anger would have. "We've discussed your bottlenecking. We discussed adding a second release manager. We discussed scale." Trent plants both hands on the table. "This company cannot keep treating one person's comfort level as an operational requirement." My comfort level isn't in the approval matrix. A tiny sound comes from Omar at the far end of the table. It might be a cough. It might be him swallowing his soul. Trent's eyes flick toward the client services team, checking the room. He's always been good at rooms. He knows when people are bored, when they're afraid, when they want permission to laugh. That skill helped him rescue Halcyon after the original implementation missed 3 milestones and send a test file containing 17,000 fake delinquency notices to the wrong print queue. He took that disaster personally. He slept in the office twice, negotiated a revised schedule, and learned enough about municipal billing to speak convincingly about meter cycles over steak. Halcyon's vice president trusted him. Trent has real gifts. That's part of the problem. He turns back to me. The matrix is being updated. Has Halcyon approved that? This is an internal staffing decision. The release authority is named in their control plan, and Evan will be named. Evan looks like he would prefer to be named in a will. Trent picks up the eraser again and rubs at the residue of my name until the board squeaks. "We are not relitigating this in front of the launch team. Mara will provide a complete handoff by 5. Evan, you'll send me a streamlined runbook by 7. We release tomorrow night as planned." He caps the marker. Meeting over. Chairs scrape back. People collect laptops with the frantic concentration of passengers pretending not to notice smoke in the cabin. Nobody speaks to me until we reach the hallway, where Omar pauses beside the water fountain. "Want me to spill something on him?" he murmurs. "You spilled coffee on yourself this morning." I have range. I almost laugh. It hurts in an inconvenient place. "Go update the archive test," I tell him. His face changes. Still? Especially now. He nods once and walks away. Evan waits near my office while everyone else disappears. Through the glass wall, I can see Trent talking to Lena from project management. His hands are moving in calm, clean lines. He's already explaining what happened in a version that makes him look patient. I unlock my office. "Come in." Evan follows me and shuts the door halfway. My office has one narrow window overlooking the employee parking lot and a radiator that hisses in July. The blue binder normally sits on the corner of my desk beside a red grease pencil, a roll of antacid tablets, and a ceramic mug Paige gave me for my 40th birthday. The mug says, "I survived another meeting that should have been an email." Trent used to laugh at it. I set the binder down and fit the loose pages back over the brass ring. Evan remains standing. "I didn't ask for this." "I know. I want more responsibility." "I know that too." He looks offended by how easily I can hold both ideas. "I can run a deployment," he says. "You can." I ran Rockland. Rockland had one billing cycle, no auto-pay migration, and 4,800 active accounts. 5,200. My mistake. He shoves his hands into his pockets. "You're doing the thing." "What thing?" "The thing where you agree with me like I'm a witness making your case." I sit down. "Do you want to make a case, Evan?" He glances through the glass at Trent. "I want to know what I just inherited." That, at least, is the right question. I rotate the binder toward him. 7 tabs divide the release: scope, data, access, finance, retention, rollback, approvals. The plastic sleeves are scuffed from 6 years of conference tables. A brown crescent stains the bottom of the rollback sheet from a deployment when Omar knocked over my coffee and spent the next 4 hours calling it a controlled liquid event. Green means evidence received, I say. Blue means tested by our team. Red means the release condition is open. There are only 3 red marks. Only 3. He studies the first one. Privileged role separation. Halcyon requires the person who changes a billing rule to be different from the person who approves it, in production and in the support console. We built that. We built it in production. Support can still impersonate an approver through the legacy admin role. His thumb stops at the ticket number. Security said that was low risk. Security said it was low probability. Halcyon decides whether they accept the risk. He turns the page. 2-person regeneration, he reads. If a bank file fails, support can regenerate it. Right now, the same user can generate, delete, and regenerate without a second approval. But the event is logged. The deletion event is logged. The regenerated file inherits the first file's batch identifier. Evan's forehead tightens. I open my bottom drawer and remove a thin test packet held together with a black clip. On the first page, 2 payment totals differ by $218,406.17. This happened in staging 3 weeks ago, I say. The operator thought the first job froze. He ran it again. Did both files go out? No, the second reviewer caught the duplicate. So the control worked. The manual control worked. Trent wants to classify the automated gap as post-launch. Evan flips to the third mark. Adjustment history retention. Omar's test is due at 4, and if it fails? We don't know whether corrected charges retain the original reason code after migration. Halcyon needs 7 years of adjustment history. If an auditor asks why a customer's bill changed, the old database probably knew isn't an answer. He closes the binder, then opens it again, as if hoping the words might rearrange into a better Friday. Trent said these were documentation items. 2 of them require code or formal risk acceptance. 1 requires a passing test. He said you were refusing to distinguish readiness from perfection. My hand tightens around the grease pencil. There it is, the private phrase dressed for public use. 2 months ago, at Paige and Trent's kitchen table, he told me I had confused being necessary with being valuable. Paige was slicing limes for drinks. She kept slicing after he said it, making each piece thinner than the last. I had answered, "You've confused my signature with a favor." Paige asked us both to stop talking about work. Now Evan shifts his weight. I'm not saying I agree. Then don't repeat it like you do. He flushes. Fair. I tear a handoff form from the back of the binder. The standard language says the outgoing release manager certifies that all known deployment conditions have been disclosed and the build is ready for promotion. I draw 1 red line through ready for promotion. Under it, I write, responsibility transferred by management direction. Open release conditions remain unresolved as listed in attached checklist and defect log. I sign and date it at 3:18 p.m. Evan reads it. Trent won't accept this. It isn't an application. You know what I mean. Yes. He sits across from me at last. What happens if I sign? You confirm receipt. You're not certifying the release. What happens if I don't? I email it to you anyway. That earns a short, unwilling laugh. He signs. I scan the form, attach the current defect log, and send both to Evan, Trent, Lena, Omar, Calder Rose security lead, and the Halcyon contacts listed in the existing approval matrix. I do not add anyone. I do not write an accusation. The body of the email is 3 sentences long. At 3:24, Trent appears in my doorway. Conference room now. He doesn't wait to see if I follow. Evan stares at the sent message on my screen. That was fast. He keeps alerts on for his own name. Is that healthy? Trent thinks healthy is what happens when other people follow the process he just changed. I pick up my notebook. I leave the binder with Evan. The small conference room smells like peppermint and overheated plastic. Trent closes the blinds even though everyone outside has already watched him summon me. He puts my email on the wall monitor. What is this? A handoff. It is insubordination with an attachment. You directed me to transfer responsibility. I transferred it. You copied the client. I copied the approval matrix. You told Halcyon the release is unready. I told them 3 conditions remain open. They already have access to the defect log. Trent turns from the screen. Up close, I can see the silver beginning at his temples. Paige likes it. Last Thanksgiving, she touched that exact place while he carved the roast and told him it made him look distinguished. He kissed her wrist. You know what's at stake, he says. The payment milestone. More than the payment milestone. We miss tomorrow. Halcyon can reopen commercial terms. Our board will freeze hiring. Customer support is already underwater. Then we should have fixed the admin role when I escalated it in May. We had 41 critical defects in May. And now we have 3 release conditions, which is called progress. Not if we rename them documentation. His jaw moves once. This is what you do. You take every imperfect choice and make it sound dishonest. You removed me in front of my team. I reassigned a role. You used my name because you made yourself the role. For a second, neither of us moves. That one lands because there is truth inside it. I built processes around myself when Calder Row was smaller. I answered messages at midnight. I remembered which client needed pipe delimited files and which bank rejected a blank middle initial. When the company doubled, I trained people but kept the final checks close. Some of that was caution. Some of it was fear. After my divorce, competence was the one room in my life where nothing moved unless I approved it. Trent knows that. He also knows where to put the knife. I supported adding a second release manager, I say. You supported adding someone who would report to you and follow your method. I supported not handing my signature to sales. This isn't about your signature. Then why do you need it? His eyes narrow outside the blinds. Someone's shadow pauses, then moves on. Trent lowers his voice. Paige asked me this morning whether you were coming Sunday. The shift is so smooth it takes me a moment to feel it. This is a work meeting. She worries about you. Then she can call me. She has. You let it ring. She calls when you're sitting beside her. He looks away first toward the monitor and my neat 3-sentence email. My wife shouldn't have to choose between her husband and her sister over a software release. I haven't asked her to. You don't have to ask. You create conditions. I close my notebook. Is there anything else about the handoff? He lets out a breath through his nose. You'll remain available to Evan through the release. I'll answer factual questions during my normal hours. You're salaried, I'm also removed. If you obstruct this launch, I handed him every record, every ticket, and the checklist you told this room anyone could run. I never said the checklist. No, you said my job. For once, Trent has no polished answer ready. At 4:07, I return to my office and find a new calendar invitation, canceling my access to Friday's launch bridge. A minute later, a system notification says my production permissions will expire at 6. At 4:12, Paige texts me, "Please don't do this to him." I turn my phone face down. Omar arrives carrying 2 paper cups and a stack of printed test results. He places 1 coffee beside my mug. Controlled liquid event, he says. Results? His attempt at a smile disappears. He slides the pages toward me. The adjustment history test has failed. 3 migrated records retain the corrected amount, but lose the original reason code and approving user. On paper, the charges seem to change themselves. I take the red grease pencil and circle each blank field. Did you rerun it? Twice. Same 3 classes of adjustment. Post it to the ticket. Trent closed the ticket 11 minutes ago. My computer chimes. An email from Nia Bell at Halcyon appears above the access notification. She has replied to my handoff, copying her compliance director. Mara, I see your release authority has changed. Before we update our control record, please provide evidence resolving the 3 open conditions identified in your checklist. Omar reads over my shoulder. Does Trent know she can see the red items? He does now. Across the floor, the door to Trent's office opens. He steps out with his phone in one hand and looks directly at me. Trent crosses the floor without hurrying. That is how I know he is furious. Your office, he says. Omar gathers the test pages. Leave those, Trent tells him. They're my results. They're company property. Omar glances at me. I slide the pages into the center of my desk. They can stay here, I say. Trent waits until Omar walks away, then steps inside and shuts the door. Through the glass, half the floor becomes intensely interested in email. What did you send Halcyon? The handoff you're looking at. What did you send before that? Nothing. Nia Bell did not invent 3 open conditions. They're in the shared defect log and the checklist attached to the control plan. You know clients don't read everything we give them. I lean back in my chair. That's your position. My position is that you highlighted internal work in a way designed to create alarm. My position is that I marked unfinished release conditions in red so people wouldn't miss them. He picks up Omar's test results. This was run after I closed the ticket. The test was already scheduled. I made the decision to defer it. You changed the ticket status. You didn't cancel the test assignment. You knew my intent. That isn't a system field. He throws the pages onto my desk. One skates to the floor. For a second, Trent looks surprised at himself. He is not a man who throws things. He is a man who waits until the room is quiet and asks whether everyone agrees on the facts. He bends, picks up the page, and aligns it with the others. I need you to listen to me, he says. The retention issue affects historical reason code display for 3 adjustment classes. The dollar values are intact. Current approvals are intact. No customer-facing data is wrong. An auditor can't see why the amount changed or who approved the original adjustment. The source data remains in the legacy archive, which support loses access to 30 days after launch. We can extend access, then put that in the risk acceptance and get Halcyon to approve it. His mouth tightens. We do not need to invite a client to manage every technical detail. They already manage their compliance risk. This is exactly why I reassigned you. No, you reassigned me because I won't call an open control closed. He points at my screen. Reply to Nia. Tell her the conditions are being handled within the implementation plan and do not prevent release. That would be your assessment, not mine. You work for me. Then you can send it. The radiator clicks behind me. Somewhere near the break room, the ice machine drops a load with a crash. Trent lowers his hand. You want me to put my name on it? I want the person making the decision to put his name on it. He looks at me for a long moment and the anger drains into something more calculating. All right, he says, we'll do it your way. He walks out with the test results. I know immediately that we will not do it my way. At 4:36, Trent replies to Naya. He says the 3 items are tracked as post-release enhancements, that current production readiness is unaffected, and that Calder Rowe has assigned Evan Mercer as release authority to improve scalability. He does not mention that Evan learned this at 2:47. Nia replies with one question. Please identify the approved risk acceptance record supporting reclassification. At 4:42, Trent asks Lena to create one. I can hear them through the glass wall of his office. Lena stands with her laptop hugged against her ribs while he talks. She is a precise project manager who uses 4 colors of sticky notes and apologizes to furniture when she bumps into it. She has also spent 11 months protecting Trent's calendar from the consequences of his promises. She comes to my office 10 minutes later. Do we have a template for operational risk acceptance? Yes. Where? Governance library, release controls, exceptions. She waits. What? I ask. Can you send me the link? You have access. Mara. Lena. She glances toward Trent's office. He wants this done by 5:30. Then you have 40 minutes. Her face hardens. You think everyone who helps him is against you. I think you're asking me to prepare the document that will be used to overrule me. I'm asking where a template is, and I told you. She shifts the laptop to her other arm. Do you understand what happens if Halcyon reopens the contract? Yes. Do you? Because I have 9 contractors whose extensions depend on the renewal. And Halcyon has customers whose payment records depend on the release. The payment records are correct. The audit history isn't. Lena exhales. You always make the smaller risks sound morally cleaner. That stops me. She sees it and continues more softly. Trent is taking a business risk. Maybe it's the wrong one, but you act like you're the only person here with people attached to your decisions. I look through the glass at Omar, who is typing notes into the reopened retention ticket before someone can close it again. You're right, I say. Lena blinks. I do that sometimes. The admission leaves both of us without a script. I turn to my computer, find the template, and send her the link. The exception owner can approve their own exception. Halcyon's control plan names their compliance director for release-related retention gaps. Trent said Ron Keller can approve it. Ron is their implementation vice president. He can approve schedule and budget exceptions, not records compliance. She stares at the message on her screen. Is that in writing? Page 43 of the control plan. She leaves without thanking me. At 5, Evan returns with the binder tucked under his arm. A yellow, sticky note protrudes from every tab. Did you do this? I ask. I respect your system while reserving the right to improve its visual appeal. The tabs have labels. The tabs have nouns. My notes have verbs. He puts the binder on my desk and opens to access controls. Security can disable support impersonation by tomorrow afternoon. The release window starts at 6. I'm aware of how clocks work. Then it's not resolved. It could be resolved before promotion if we move the database backup and reconciliation later. You'd compress rollback testing by 40 minutes, assuming the fix passes the first time. His jaw tightens. I'm trying to solve it. I know. Could you say that without sounding like a hospice nurse? I push the coffee Omar brought me toward him. It's bad. He drinks it anyway. We spend 20 minutes rearranging the runbook. Evan knows the system better than Trent realizes. He finds time by moving 2 client demonstrations out of the launch bridge and combining redundant status checks. The access fix might fit if security starts at 8 Friday morning and Halcyon agrees to shift production promotion by 90 minutes. That leaves regeneration and retention, he says. 2-person regeneration can be handled manually for launch if Halcyon signs off and the named reviewers are on the bridge. Retention. Extend the legacy archive access. Document the affected adjustment classes and commit the migration repair to a dated patch. So there is a path. There was always a path. Then why didn't you propose this in the meeting? I did. Tuesday. Trent said telling Halcyon would create unnecessary concern. Evan studies me, deciding whether to believe that. Check the minutes, I say. He does. At 5:39, he sends Trent a revised plan and recommends delaying promotion by 90 minutes. He copies me, Lena, and security. Trent replies only to Evan, "Come see me." Evan leaves the blue binder on my desk. At 6, my production access disappears. The application icons remain, but every environment returns a white screen with access, not authorized in polite blue letters. I take a screenshot and attach it to my handoff record. Then I pack my bag. The binder does not belong to me, so I carry it to Evan's empty office and set it beside his keyboard. I place the red grease pencil on top. My phone vibrates in the elevator. Paige again. "Can we please talk like sisters for 5 minutes?" I wait until I reach the parking garage to call her. She answers before the first ring finishes. "What are you doing?" "Hi, Paige. I'm serious." "So am I." "Trent says you contacted the client after he removed you. I sent the required handoff to the existing approval group. You know I don't understand that language." "You understand after he removed you." She goes quiet. A car turns down the garage aisle, headlights sliding across the concrete pillars. I step closer to the wall. "He says you're trying to make him look reckless," she says. "I don't have that kind of time." "Can you not joke?" "I'm trying not to yell. Then tell me what he did that was so terrible." I close my eyes. The terrible part is not that he changed my assignment. Managers change assignments. The terrible part is the marker squeaking over my name while people I trained watched him turn 6 years of judgment into a task anybody could pick up before dinner. But Paige will hear the words and measure them against a contract, 9 contractors, and the man asleep beside her. "He ordered open compliance conditions moved after launch," I say. "I documented that I didn't approve it." "So this is about paperwork. It's about what the paperwork proves." There, that tone. What tone? The one where you make me feel stupid. I rest the back of my head against the concrete wall. "I don't think you're stupid. You think Trent is." "No, I think he's smart enough to know better." Her breath catches, small and sharp. "He has worked for this account for a year," she says. "I barely see him. He wakes up checking messages. He's trying to keep the company from losing money, and you're treating him like some stranger cheating a safety inspection." "I introduced you to him." "I know." "I recommended him for the client strategy job." "I know that too." "Then don't tell me I don't see what he's good at." Paige's voice softens. "Come Sunday. We'll sit down, the 3 of us." "No." "You haven't even—" "I'm not negotiating a work record at your kitchen table. It's our family. He brought you into it this afternoon, and you're making me pay for that." The elevator opens behind me with a cheerful chime. 2 people from accounting step out, see my face, and walk toward their cars without saying hello. "I'm going home," I tell Paige. "If this release gets stopped, he may lose his promotion. If the release gets stopped, it will be because Halcyon refuses it, because of what you sent, because of what's unfinished." She hangs up. At 7:18, Evan sends me a message from his personal phone. Trent rejected the schedule change, says Ron approved original window. I type 3 different answers and erase them all. Finally, I send, "Ask for it in writing." 3 dots appear. You really do make everyone become you eventually. Not everyone. Omar still uses Comic Sans in test labels. The dots return, disappear, then return again. He told me not to contact you, then stop. I put the phone down. At 8:03, Trent distributes the streamlined runbook. It is 11 pages shorter than mine. The approval section lists Ron Keller for Halcyon and Evan for Calder Row. Nia Bell and Halcyon's compliance director, Celeste Ung, have been removed from the launch authorization line, though they remain in the control plan referenced on the cover page. I save the email and shut my laptop. Sleep comes in pieces. At 1:40, I wake certain I forgot to lock my front door. At 3:15, I dream about blank reason code fields multiplying down a page. At 5:52, I give up and make coffee. My access is still disabled, but email works. There are 19 messages in the Halcyon thread. Nia has asked for the access evidence, the regeneration approval, and the retention results. Trent has provided a security estimate, described the regeneration issue as mitigated by logging, and said the retention test is being rerun. Omar has replied with the failed results. At 6:11, Celeste Ung enters the thread for the first time. Her message is 6 lines long. The existing control plan requires compliance approval for changes to release authority and acceptance of unresolved access, payment file, or retention controls. We have approved neither. Please identify who authorized the revised runbook and reclassified these conditions. Pending that response, compliance authorization remains withheld. At 6:16, Trent replies that Calder Rowe retains authority over its internal release process and that Ron Keller has confirmed the business schedule. At 6:22, Celeste answers, "Business schedule approval is not compliance authorization." At 6:31, Trent sends the launch team a calendar update. Release proceeding as planned. I read it twice. Then I see the recipient list. He has added me back to the launch bridge, but only as advisory support. At 7:04, Evan calls. "I asked for the written approval," he says without greeting. "And Ron approved the date. That's all." Trent says Celeste is overreaching. "What do you think?" "I think my name is sitting where yours used to be." His voice sounds scraped raw. I pour coffee into the mug Paige gave me. "You can still tell him you won't certify." "He'll replace me too." "Yes. You say that like it's easy." "No. I say it like it's true." He is silent for several seconds. "What would you do?" "I already did it." At 7:47, Evan sends a reply to the launch team. "I can coordinate the release but cannot certify the 3 open controls as resolved. I recommend we follow the revised schedule provided yesterday and obtain Halcyon's documented acceptance before production promotion." 2 minutes later, my phone rings. Trent. I let it go to voicemail. He calls once more, then sends a message. "Join the bridge at 8. This has gone far enough." The launch bridge opens with 23 people and no small talk. Trent speaks first, brisk and composed. "Security will complete the access change. Retention remediation will follow under the warranty period. Operations will use existing logging for any regenerated payment file. Calder Rowe," he says, "is proceeding." Celeste waits until he finishes. "Who approved those deviations?" she asks. "I did," Trent says, "as executive sponsor." "Thank you," Celeste says. The calm in her voice changes the room. "We now have the authorization record we requested." Trent leans toward his camera. "Good. Then let's stop circling this." "We're finished circling," she says. "Halcyon compliance refuses the release. Production access will remain locked, and no files will be accepted from this build." On my desk, coffee has settled into the old brown crescent inside my mug. Across the call, someone closes a laptop. Trent looks straight into his camera as if he can force the screen to blink first. Then he says my name. "Mara," Trent says, "please explain to Celeste that these conditions do not affect data integrity." 23 squares hold still on my screen. "I can explain the test results," I say. "I can't make the compliance determination." His nostrils flare. "You're the person who raised them." Omar ran the retention test. Security owns the access defect. Payments owns regeneration. Celeste speaks before he can answer. "That division of ownership is consistent with the control plan. We'll take each item with its owner." Trent smiles without showing teeth. "Celeste, with respect, we are 4 minutes into a 10-hour deployment window. Halcyon's operational sponsor approved this date. If your team blocks access, the delay is yours." The release was presented to us as meeting the approved controls. And it does in substance. Then the evidence should be brief. She asks security for the privileged role test. They admit the code change has not been completed. She asks payments who will serve as the required second reviewer if a file must be regenerated. Their manager says no one assigned him that role. She asks Omar whether the failed retention result was rerun. "It was," Omar says. His voice sounds thin over the bridge. "The same records failed." "Was the ticket reopened?" "Yes." "By whom?" "I reopened it after posting the evidence." "Who closed it before the evidence was posted?" There is a pause. Trent says, I did, as part of release triage. Celeste thanks him again, which somehow sounds worse than anger. She instructs Halcyon's platform administrator to keep the production gateway locked. Nia schedules a compliance review for 10. Ron Keller, who has been silent through all of this, says he wants an internal Halcyon discussion before anyone touches the schedule. Trent mutes himself. A direct message appears from him. Do not speak unless asked. I take a screenshot. Evan messages me 1 second later. He sent me the same thing. At 8:19, Trent ends Calder Row's participation in the bridge and opens an internal call. His face fills my screen. Everyone except Mara, Evan, Lena, Omar, and security can drop, he says. People vanish with indecent speed. When 7 of us remain, he folds his hands. This is a recoverable client escalation. We are going to treat it like one. Security, complete the role change by noon. Omar, work with data engineering on the retention defect. Evan, assign 2 payment reviewers and update the runbook. Lena, schedule a new readiness review for this afternoon. He is good in a crisis. His instructions are clear, his priorities correct, his voice steady. If he had done this 24 hours earlier, we would be drinking terrible coffee and complaining about the delayed window instead of explaining ourselves to compliance. Then he looks at me. Mara, you will prepare a statement confirming that the open items were known technical limitations, not undisclosed defects, and that your handoff email was not intended to recommend blocking release. I won't prepare that. You don't get to decide what the company's position is. I get to decide what I sign. You created this escalation. Celeste refused the release. Because you framed manageable work as compliance failure. She read the control plan, which you made sure she did. Nia helped write it, but there's no point saying that. Trent has moved beyond facts into motive, where he has more room. Lena shifts in her chair. We should probably focus on remediation. We are, Trent says. Part of remediation is correcting the client's impression that our leadership concealed risk. Did they get that impression? Evan asks. Trent turns on him. What do you think? Evan glances at the blue binder beside his laptop. The red grease pencil lies across the Open Approvals tab. I think Celeste asked who approved the deviations, he says. You answered. I stepped up because my release manager declined to. I declined to certify controls I couldn't verify. You accepted the role. After the role was assigned in a meeting where you said anyone could do it. Silence expands across the call. Trent's expression changes by less than an inch. Bring the binder to my office. Evan closes it. Why? Because it is a company record. So is the shared copy. The physical record, Evan. I'll scan today's updates first. You'll bring it now. Evan looks at me, but this decision cannot belong to me. After a moment, he nods. Trent ends the call. By 9, my calendar has emptied. Meetings disappear one after another. At 9:12, Human Resources sends an invitation for Monday morning with the subject Release Process Review. Sonia Patel, Calder Row's Chief Operating Officer, is included, along with Trent and our General Counsel. The Council's presence makes my stomach fold in on itself, even though I know reviews like this routinely include her. At 9:20, my email access changes to read-only. I call HR Jules answers with the cautious warmth people use when they have already been told something about you. The restriction is temporary, she says. We need to preserve the record while we review conflicting accounts. I can't alter sent messages or ticket histories. It applies to all relevant employees. Does Trent have read-only access? A pause. I can't discuss another employee's access. Can I speak to the client? Please don't communicate with Halcyon until the review is complete. Can I assist the technical team? Your manager has requested that remediation proceed through Evan, my manager. The phrase feels absurdly normal. Am I suspended? No. You're expected to remain available during work hours. For what? Questions related to the review. In other words, sit in my apartment while everyone fixes the problems I spent months trying to fix. I thank her because my mother taught me manners that activate during emergencies. At 10, I close the laptop and clean my kitchen. I wipe a counter that is already clean, take recycling downstairs, and reorganize a drawer full of batteries and takeout menus. At 11:15, I find myself holding the red lid of a container that disappeared sometime before my divorce. I throw the lid away and immediately take it out of the trash. My phone buzzes. Omar has sent a photograph of a screen through our personal group chat. 3 previously blank reason code fields are populated. Retention patch passed, he writes, still working on old approvals. A minute later, am I violating something by telling you this? Probably. Cool. Deleting the evidence of my loyalty. He does not delete it. At noon, Evan calls from the parking lot. Security's fix passed, he says. Manual payment reviewers are assigned. Celeste wants a new evidence packet and 24 hours to review it. That's reasonable. Trent says it's punitive. What do you say? I'm developing an allergy to that question. Wind beats against his phone. A car horn chirps nearby. He took the binder, Evan says. Wouldn't let me finish scanning the approvals section. Did you update the shared checklist? Yes. Then the record exists. He asked whether you told me to refuse certification. What did you say? That you told me to ask for written approval. And he said that was coaching me to undermine him. I sit on the edge of the sofa. Evan, you need to document your own decisions in your own words. I did. Good. He also said Monday's review is going to examine whether you intentionally built a process no one else could operate. That lands closer than Trent's other attacks. Maybe it should, I say. You agree with him? I built too much around memory. I've said that for a year. That isn't the same as sabotage. No. Then sound more upset. I'm tired. You can be both. After we hang up, I open my personal folder of performance reviews. 3 years ago, Trent praised my exceptional institutional command. 2 years ago, he credited me with reducing failed deployments by 60%. Last year, he wrote that Calder Rowe needed to distribute Mara's deep process knowledge without diluting her authority. 6 months later, distributing my knowledge has become proof that my authority was artificial. At 2, Paige knocks on my door. She's still wearing clothes from the office. Black pants, soft gray blouse, gold hoops. She works in commercial insurance and has a talent for making bad news sound like a coverage question. I brought your serving dish, she says. The dish has been at her house since Thanksgiving. Is this a hostage exchange? Can I come in? I step aside. She puts the dish on the kitchen counter and notices the coffee mug beside the sink. Her eyes move away from it. Trent hasn't slept, she says. Neither have I. He went back to the office. I know. You know? People tell me things. That's part of the problem. I lean against the counter. Which problem? He says you turned his team against him. They're my team too. He says you refused to help after compliance stopped the release. He removed my access after you refused to correct the email. I wasn't going to sign his version of events. Paige presses her fingertips to the edge of the serving dish. His promotion review was supposed to be next week. I know. If this goes badly, he could lose it. Yes. Can you say anything else? What would help? I don't know. That you're sorry? I'm sorry you're in the middle. Her laugh is quiet and ugly. You both keep saying that while pulling me from opposite sides. I haven't asked you to do anything. You expect me to see him differently. I expect you to decide for yourself. He says, you've always resented that he moved up faster. The words come out rehearsed. She hates them as soon as they are in the room. I recommended him, I say. You keep saying that like it means you own part of him. No, it means I believed in him. And now, I look at my sister. There are pale half-moons beneath her eyes. Now I believe he closed a failed test, removed compliance from a run book, and tried to make other people approve decisions he made. Paige swallows. That's not who he is at home. I hope not. What is that supposed to mean? It means I hope he doesn't erase your name when you disagree with him. She slaps the countertop. The serving dish jumps. For a moment, we stare at each other. Paige's hand reddens along the side. "You always do that," she says. "You wait until you can say the one thing that makes leaving feel like losing." Paige, "No, you don't get to use being calm as proof you're right." She takes her purse and goes. The serving dish remains on the counter between us, returned too late to mean anything kind. On Monday, I enter the review with a legal pad and printed copies of the control plan, defect log, and handoff. Trent has a black presentation folder in front of him. The blue binder is nowhere in the room. Sonia Patel asks him to begin. Trent opens the folder. "This was not a compliance failure," he says. "It was the foreseeable result of one employee making herself indispensable, then using the client relationship to punish the company when we tried to correct that dependency." He slides a document across the table. It is a formal recommendation for my termination. I look at the recommendation without touching it. The first paragraph calls my handoff an unauthorized client escalation. The second says, "I failed to create adequate succession coverage." The third says, "I encourage subordinate employees to disregard executive direction." By the final page, my refusal to certify Trent's decision has become refusal to perform my job. My termination is recommended for insubordination, destructive client conduct, and breach of managerial trust. Sonia Patel sits at the end of the table, reading her own copy. She has run operations at Calder Row for 4 years and speaks so quietly that people stop shuffling papers to hear her. "Did HR participate in drafting this?" she asks. Jules clears her throat. "We received it Friday afternoon." "That wasn't my question." "No." Sonia places the pages down. "Mara, have you read this before today?" "No." "Do you need time?" "I'd like Trent to finish." Trent looks prepared for resistance, not permission. He opens his presentation folder to a chart showing the release process with my name attached to 11 different checkpoints. "This is the structural issue," he says. "For years, Mara has positioned herself between delivery teams and client approval. We attempted to distribute that authority. She responded by signaling to Halcyon that the transition itself created a compliance risk." "The transition required their approval," I say. "You copied them before we could update the record." "I copied the people on the current record." "You knew the effect." Sonia raises one finger. "Let him finish." Trent describes the commercial damage. Halcyon has invoked its right to review the missed milestone. The performance payment is delayed. Contractor extensions are uncertain. Ron Keller, once Trent's strongest supporter, has asked that another executive sponsor attend future meetings. All of that is real. Trent does not exaggerate it. Then he says, "I withheld workable mitigations until after compliance intervened." I write the sentence down. When he finishes, Sonia turns to me. "Start with what you agree with." Trent's eyebrows lift. "I agree that the release process depended too heavily on me," I say. "I agree that I kept some final checks too close. I also agree the company needed another person with authority." "Why didn't it have one?" "I proposed a second release manager in October and again in January. The positions were deferred." Trent leans forward. "Because you required the role to report to you. I required release authority to sit outside sales. You required your structure." "Yes, I believed it was the right structure." Sonia looks between us. Continue. "I don't agree that I withheld mitigations. The revised schedule Evan proposed Thursday contains the same options I presented Tuesday." I slide the meeting minutes across the table. Lena's name appears at the bottom as recorder. The access fix, manual second review, archive extension, and migration patch are listed beneath Mara's proposed path to conditional readiness. Trent barely glances at it. "We discussed dozens of possibilities Tuesday. The minutes say you rejected this one because notifying Halcyon would create unnecessary concern. Minutes are not transcripts." "No," Lena says, "but those are accurate." Until then, she has been sitting beside Jules, hands folded over a closed notebook. Trent turns toward her. You don't know every strategic consideration that informed my decision. I'm not claiming I do. Lena opens her notebook. I'm confirming what was said. Sonia asks her about the risk acceptance form. Lena's fingers tighten. Trent asked me to prepare it Thursday afternoon, she says. I pulled the template from governance. The form required an exception owner, a separate approver, a remediation date, and client compliance approval. Was it completed? No. Why not? I told Trent that Ron Keller wasn't the named compliance approver. Trent said the release could proceed under executive acceptance and we would formalize it afterward. Trent sits back. I said we would determine whether formal approval was required. Lena opens her laptop. I wrote the exact language in my project notes 5 minutes later. She rotates the screen towards Sonia. Trent's face reddens along the collar. This is absurd, he says. You're taking ordinary pressure during a launch and reconstructing it as misconduct. I'm trying to establish the decision chain, Sonia says. The decision chain is clear. I made a business call. Mara made sure it failed. I finally touched the termination recommendation. The email I sent was 3 sentences, I say. It attached the handoff, current checklist, and defect log. Every recipient was already on the approved matrix. I didn't recommend blocking the release. I documented that I wasn't certifying it. You marked conditions in red. They were already red. You chose language you knew would attract scrutiny. I chose their control names. Trent laughs once. This is what I mean. She knows exactly how to create an outcome while pretending the process created it. Sonia looks at me. Did you want Halcyon to stop the release? The room becomes very still. I wanted Trent to disclose the conditions and ask for approval, I say. By Friday morning, with the fix unfinished and the test failed, yes, I believed they should stop it. Trent spreads his hands as if I have confessed. I keep going. But I didn't have authority to stop it. Celeste did. She asked who approved the deviations. Trent answered. That answer created the authorization record she used. Sonia turns to him. Why did you order the team to proceed after Halcyon said compliance authorization was withheld? Because their operational sponsor had approved the date and we had a viable remediation path. Why was compliance removed from the revised runbook? The runbook was streamlined. They remained part of the wider control plan. Then why were they removed from the authorization line? Trent's gaze flicks toward the black folder. That document was drafted under extreme time pressure. By whom? Evan prepared the first revision. Sonia looks at Evan. He has been silent near the wall, the youngest person in the room and the only one without a printed packet. He places his phone on the table. I sent Trent a revised plan at 5:39, he says. It kept Halcyon compliance as approver and moved promotion 90 minutes. He rejected it. The runbook distributed at 8:03 used an older file from the project drive with my name in the author field. I didn't prepare that version. Can you establish that? Version history does. Trent rubs his forehead. This is turning into a prosecution over file formatting. No, Evan says. His voice shakes, but he holds it. It's about why my name was put on a decision I didn't make. I look down at my legal pad. For the first time since Thursday, I feel something loosen in my chest. Not victory, recognition. Sonia asks for the blue binder. Trent says it is in his office. Why wasn't it preserved with the other release materials? It was. I took it to review Mara's annotations. After ordering Evan to surrender it? I'm the executive sponsor. Sonia writes something. The review lasts another hour. Omar's failed test matches the red mark in its linked ticket. Security's estimate matches the mitigation discussed Tuesday. My access screenshot shows it was revoked before Trent ordered me to remain available for the release. Trent argues that every action was within his managerial discretion. On several points, he is right. That is what saves the meeting from becoming simple. He had authority to remove me. He had authority to change internal assignments. He had authority to recommend proceeding. What he did not have was Halcyon's compliance approval. Evan's certification, or the right to make my signature appear after I withdrew it. Sonia closes the black folder. Mara, you'll remain on paid administrative status while we complete the review. Trent begins to speak. You will too, she tells him. His mouth stays open for half a second before he closes it. Calder Row does not release that Friday. The access fix passes before lunch. The retention patch takes until Saturday night because restoring original approving users breaks 2 migrated adjustment reports. Payment Operations rehearses the regeneration process Monday with named reviewers. On Tuesday, Halcyon receives a new evidence packet signed by the people who actually performed the work. Compliance approves a Wednesday night window. Evan runs it. I sit in my apartment with read-only email and watch status messages arrive 10 minutes late. At 11:14 p.m., the final reconciliation matches. At 11:31, Halcyon accepts the first production file. Omar sends me a picture of the launch room table. In the middle sits the blue binder open to approvals. My red grease pencil is gone. The review takes 3 weeks. Sonia calls me back to the same small conference room, this time without Trent. Jules is there with a written finding. My termination recommendation is denied. The review concludes that my handoff was appropriate. My client communication followed the existing matrix, and my refusal to certify unresolved controls was consistent with company policy. It also says I contributed to key person dependency by allowing informal knowledge to remain concentrated in my role. I don't disagree, I say. Sonia watches me. Most people fight the paragraph that isn't flattering. Most people don't want to come back. Do you? I look through the glass wall at my dark office. Not to the same job. Jules slides an offer across the table. Restored access. A title change to Director of Release Governance. A 6% increase. I leave it where it is. What would make it a real role? Sonia asks. Release authority independent of client sales. 2 trained deputies. Control exceptions approved by someone other than the person carrying the schedule. Written stop work protection. And a salary correction based on the directors whose risk I've already been carrying. How much? I tell her. Jules stops taking notes. Sonia's mouth shifts at one corner. You came prepared. You put me on leave for 3 weeks. We settle 2 days later, below my number and well above theirs. Evan becomes my first deputy. The second position is posted internally. Every release checklist moves into a shared system with named owners, backup owners, evidence links, and no checkpoint that depends on somebody remembering what Mara knows. Trent returns too. His promotion review is postponed indefinitely. He keeps responsibility for client strategy, but loses unilateral delivery authority and no longer manages me. Sonia attends the next 3 Halcyon meetings. Ron speaks to Trent politely and directs operational questions to Evan. Halcyon renews with a stricter governance addendum and a reduced performance payment. The delayed money forces Calder Row to stagger the contractor extensions instead of approving them all at once. Lena spends 2 ugly weeks rearranging projects and finds positions for 7 of the 9. The remaining 2 receive completion bonuses and leave for other contracts. Consequences refuse to sort themselves into clean categories. Paige does not call. At family gatherings, she and Trent are suddenly unavailable. My mother asks whether everyone is busy and then changes the subject before I can answer. The serving dish stays on my kitchen counter for a month because putting it away feels too final. At work, Trent and I communicate in short emails copied to Sonia. He never again says anyone can do my job. Instead, he says the new governance process is cumbersome, which is his way of acknowledging it exists. He is still talented. He wins back some of Ron's trust by helping renegotiate the implementation schedule. He also tells anyone willing to listen that Halcyon's compliance team used us to expand its power. Each time the story fails to restore him, he sharpens it. By winter, Paige sends me a message asking if I'm home. She arrives carrying the blue binder in both arms. I found it in Trent's office, she says, at Calder Row. At home, in one of the boxes from when they moved him downstairs. She sets it beside the serving dish, which I finally put away months ago, but took out that morning for no reason I understood. The binder's brass ring is bent. Several pages have pulled loose. Trent's yellow sticky note is still attached to the approval tab, "Need cleaner story." Page sees me read it. He says he meant the client narrative. Maybe he did. He says a lot of things that could mean something better. Her wedding ring is still on, but she turns it around her finger. "I'm staying with a friend for a while," she says. I don't know what happens next. I nod. She looks irritated. "You can say something." I don't know what would help. A breath escapes her, almost a laugh. That's my line. I stole it. "You always were better with records. The joke hurts us both, but it opens enough space for coffee." She does not apologize for choosing him. I do not ask her to. She tells me Trent has spent months describing every consequence as something done to him. When she asked what he would have done if the bad payment file went out, he said it didn't. When she asked why it didn't, he left the room. Before Paige goes, she touches the bent brass ring. "I'm sorry I called it paperwork." I close the binder. "I'm sorry I made being calm feel like a weapon." She nods, eyes wet, and kisses my cheek. The next Halcyon release comes on a Thursday in March. Evan sits at the head of the launch table with the repaired binder, though every record now lives online. He keeps the physical copy because he says systems deserve ceremonial objects. At 10:30, Celeste approves production promotion. At 11:12, the final payment file total matches. Evan reads each owner's name aloud before closing the bridge. I take the red grease pencil Paige found beneath Trent's papers and draw a line through the completed date. Then I hand it to Evan for the next release.